So we are recording now. For those of you who entered in the chat, if you saw the screen, if you aren't able to, you can always send me a text. We're just trying to collect a little bit of data on while you're waiting, enter in the chat box, the county that you represent, your role, whether it's a horse project leader, a 4-H'er, a volunteer, a parent, or a staff, and identify whether you're an adult or a youth. And if you have a group of you that are viewing this together, summarize the number of youth and adults that are viewing it. So if you are on a phone, if you want to, even after the meeting, just shoot me a text message. That would be awesome. I'm going to put it won't do me any good to put it in the phone number in the chat. Well, it might. But my phone number is 218-232-5174. So if you are on a phone, if you want to just shoot me a text as to who's viewing, what your role is, and how many of you, and whether it's youth or adults, that would be great.
Renee, the last digits of your phone number, I didn't hear it.
5174.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we're going to go ahead. Some of the topics that we'll be talking about today on the regional horse meeting are an introduction to state horse PDC members. So just so you know names of who's in your region for now, the adults and the youth. Discussing the horse book rule changes that were approved at the November PDC meeting. Talking briefly, and I don't have answers to this, but we're going to talk a little bit about it. Proposed schedule changes to the state horse show and why we're doing it and kind of what we're thinking about. Some new horseless horse opportunities that are on the horizon on the state level. Discovery horse program that we offered and maybe reoffering if we feel like there is enough interest. Just a recap on the ranch horse pleasure class. Got some numbers to share with you and how it went. And then some information about other project meetings or opportunities that are statewide. And then finally, the alumni committee and a listserv that they have been creating to kind of support and benefit the horse program as we move forward. So that's just an idea of the topics that we'll be talking about today. Please feel free. I don't have my chat up. I could put it up. So if someone could kind of help monitor the chat for me, that would be amazing. So if questions come up, feel free to stop and ask those questions as we go. If you are on a computer or you have access to unmute, feel free to ask those questions as we go. State horse PDC reps, those are elected in October at the regional meeting. And just for those of you who don't know, the adults are elected onto a 2-year term, and those are staggered positions. So one goes off each year, so we don't have a total turnover. The youth members are elected to a 1-year term, and they can be reelected as many times as they want, but the adults can only be reelected to 3 consecutive terms. What their role is generally is to host the regional meetings, not the whole group ones necessarily like this, but when we get to the breakout groups to discuss more things regionally on your level. They're to be the contact between the state horse PDC and 4-H horse members and volunteers and parents and that. So if you have questions, you can reach out to your reps. If they have the answer, they will give it to you. If they don't, or if it's something that needs more discussion or thoughts or ideas, they bring those back to the state horse PDC for discussion. And then they provide leadership and guidance to the state horse program. So we rely on them to help us to think through changes that might happen, that we have a say in, that we can change, or bring forward ideas from counties or bring forward ideas from regions and all of those kind of things. They also create and manage the budget for the state horse program as a whole, which is a huge undertaking. Our budget in total is about roughly what our actual expenses are anywhere between $150,000 to $200,000 a year. A lot of that lies in the state horse show. But they also provide guidance in directing all of the funds that are earmarked for the state horse program statewide. So they have a lot of responsibilities, but it is a fun job. So if you ever thought about it as an adult to run for a regional rep, it's not a ton of time commitment. We have 2 in-person meetings a year for the state horse PDC, a 3rd one if it's needed, if we're working on a project. And then the regional meetings, which is 3 a year, which 2 are virtual, 1 is in person. And that's really the expectations of the horse PDC, and then anything that would pop up in between that we would ask to do, that we would encourage people to do or sign up to be a part of on committees. So the horse PDC reps in the Northeast, it's Becky Cook is an adult leader, and Lorraine Schneider is an adult. Josie Kostick is a youth, and we have an open position in the Northeast region. So if you are interested as a youth member in the Northeast, that position is open. You can contact me afterwards if you're interested, and we can talk about it and discuss it. And if you're still interested, submit an application for the PDC to look at. In the Northwest, we have Patty Flodine, who's our adult, and Michelle Brendan Mule, who's an adult. Madeline Brendan Mule is a youth, and Abby Slack is also a youth elected onto that as PDC reps. Central, we have Alexandra Petty as an adult, and Cindy Goldaddy as an adult, Leah Goldaddy as a youth, and Allison Morrell as a youth. In Southeast, we have Jolene Brandenburg as an adult, and Barb Clasius as an adult, and Alina Skinner as a youth. And again, in the Southeast, we have another open position. So if you are a youth or you know a youth who would be good, I encourage you to have them get in touch with me so we can talk about that position and what that entails, and hopefully get someone into that role. In the Southwest, we have Randy Dokken as an adult and Caleb Johnson as an adult. We have Kylie Brands as a youth and Kendall Johnson as a youth rep. So any questions on the state horse PDC positions or roles or responsibilities or any of those type of things? Those are also posted on the 4-H horse website. So if you go onto the horse website and you go on, click on the tab that's called volunteering, and you go into that tab, you can find all of the state PDC past minutes, dates as they come up for next meetings, as well as regional meeting minutes. And those reps and their contact information are located there. So we're going to get into horse rulebook changes. There were a fair number of submissions this year that the state horse PDC had to go through, kind of analyze and make decisions on, have a lot of discussion on. Some took longer than others to make those decisions. But as it came down to, I believe there were 9 changes that happened to the horse rule book this year. The first one is an addition in the drill team activity under general rules. And it comes down to tiebreakers, because this year we did not have a tiebreaker necessarily in place that we needed. So we had to, at the last minute, make a decision on what that tiebreaker might look like. So we have now put that into the same tiebreaker that we ended up using, we put into the rule book. So it's a little more, I guess it's out there now, so that there shouldn't be any questions involving that. But the tiebreakers for freestyle and quad classes, in the result of a tie, the team with the least number of faults will be placed higher than the team with more penalties. So if both teams have no or equal penalties, then the team with the highest number of performance category points will be placed higher than the team with fewer performance category points. If there is still a tie, the team with the highest number of points in the execution category will be placed higher than the team with fewer execution category points. For compulsory class, the team with the least number of penalties will be placed higher than the team with more penalties. If there is still a tie, the team with the highest number of points in smoothness of maneuvers and pace, I got a typo, will place higher than a team with a lower score in smoothness of maneuvers and pace. So that's one of the additions to the horse rule book that was put in place for drill team. Another addition also relates to drill team, and that is to add to the compulsory scorecards the same difficulty categories that are in the quad scorecards. So also change the total point to reflect 155 total points. Second edition, compulsory drill, class routine number 2. Music for the compulsory drill will be chosen by each team, and the drill length should be a maximum of 10 minutes. Under horse show general rules, tack, and appointments, in addition, A legal flag holder attached to the rider's stirrup is required if carrying any type of flag. The holder must be just big enough to fit the flagpole with a slight bit of pole movement room. Flag holders can have 1 or 2 straps, and there has been a legal flag holder picture provided in the rule book, or a sample picture, so that people can get an idea of what is considered a legal flag holder. Another addition to the general rules for horse show: a horse may be used only once in any event per show. Age, grade, and type divisions are considered class divisions and not separate events. The horse may be used in an additional non-qualifying class in the same event. The exception being if a horse is shared between riders where one is showing a state qualifying class and one is showing a non-qualifying class, the horse then may be shown by both youth in the same event. Now, that is not the change. The change comes in the next part. If a horse is shared by more than one state show eligible rider and more than one youth earn a state horse show trip on that horse, only one youth may enter that horse in the state 4-H horse show. So if I can simplify both of those a little bit, basically what it means is if you have two kids who are in the state eligible classification, meaning they're both 6th grade and up, they can't both show that horse in barrels and compete against each other or against as a state fair qualifier in barrels. However, 2 youth may show the same horse and one shows in barrels and one shows in poles. Or if you have a same horse or a shared horse and one is not state horse show eligible, so 5th grade and lower, and another youth is older, meaning 6th grade and up, state horse show eligible, then they can ride in the same event barrels because they're not competing for a state trip and not earning points against each other with the same animal. So if that clarifies that a little bit. And then if you have, go ahead.
I just have a quick question. This is Lorraine. So there was a question for drill team. So say a youth, a family has a horse that they've been using. One youth uses it for drill team. One youth uses it for a pleasure games class. The team takes a trip and drill team, and also the youth qualifies at the county level. Can that horse still be used because they are both going to state and then using that same horse for 2 state qualifying events?
They can, because they're totally different events. So what this reflects is games and performance classes. So the regular ones, it doesn't reflect drill team, or I guess you would say miniature horse, or those extra type things. Great question. Thanks for asking. Any other questions on that specific one? I know that seems confusing. But if we can break it down a little easier, it's easier to understand qualifying versus non-qualifying. Basically, they can't compete against each other on the same horse.
I have a question. This is Rhonda. Okay, so if you're not going for state qualifying, 2 littler kids, they can share the same horse in games, 2 like 4th graders or whatever.
They can show them, they can, but they can't. If they're both 4th grade, they can't both compete in barrels.
Okay.
But one could do barrels and one could do poles. Another one could do key and the other one could do jumping figure 8.
Okay, but you both can't ride the horse all day long and everything.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Yep.
Thank you.
Another addition in horse show general rules, tack and appointments, Western performance, prohibited ranch, pleasure, tack and attire, equipment, game classes, equipment. There were questions last year because ranch was new, whether protective leg wraps, boots, or bandages they are permitted in all pleasure classes except ranch class. They are allowed for all game classes. So protective leg wraps and bell boots are not permitted except in ranch classes. So leg wraps, boots, and bandages are not allowed in any performance class, but they are allowed in ranch class. And you'll see on page 34, 38, 46, it still reflects, it's the same rule, it's just rewritten in a couple different places so that it's consistent. So I know that was a question on whether that was allowed last year because the class was new. We hadn't really discussed or thought about that, but it is allowed. Addition for showmanship at halter faults, insert 2 additional faults in the showmanship right after the over and under turning. An 1/8 to quarter turn, step out of setup after acknowledging the judge or ring steward is a fault, and resting a foot during inspection or being hip shot is also a fault. So those are additions. Questions on rulebook changes?
So the horse resting their foot, correct?
Correct. Correct.
I suppose
And
it
just-
wouldn't look good if the kid did it either, but
Right, right, right. And if you're looking every year in the horse rule book, be sure that you find, if you search just horse rule book, sometimes Google, for some reason, even though we take down old editions, for some reason, if you just randomly search, you can find old editions because Google apparently keeps everything. So the best place to get your information is to go directly to the state horse website. And the most current edition is always approved in November. So the 2023 rule book was actually approved in November of 22. So always make sure that you have that edition. And in the very back, there's always a section of towards the one of the last pages, we have a summary of new rules. So, you know, if you missed this or you didn't hear it or you don't remember, back there is where you can find a summary of rule changes that have happened each year. So if you want to just review those, that's a great place. Instead of having to read the whole rule book trying to pick out what's different, that's the best place you can tell families to go to look to see what those rule changes are every year. Okay, moving forward, I just want to remind people, bonus trips, opportunities, those will be posted or able to be grabbed off the web. The first week of April, they're due June 1st. If you don't know what those are, we offer 2 options for counties to apply for a bonus trip. And the bonus trip is if a county is selected to receive a bonus trip, they receive an extra state horse show trip for that year. There are 2 options for counties to apply for. One is considered excellence in programming, which really focuses on the county telling us what they've done in programming or education or how they've grown their program or what new or unique opportunities they've offered. And maybe it's that they offered it and grew their program, which is awesome. It's not super long. It's an essay. I think it's not more than, I think it's 200 or 300 words. I can't remember off the top of my head. And you can include a page of pictures and or advertisements or whatever you want with that. So it's not a lot of work. So you can apply in that category, or you can apply in what's called quality programming. So that one is based on the last 2 years of how your county youth have placed in like everything horse related. It could be miniature horse show. It could be drill team. It's state horse show. It is dam patch. It's speech and demo. It's project bowl. It's how your county has placed. So really it's how active and how well your county does in the opportunities that are offered in the horse program. And it's basically a spreadsheet that you just fill in the blanks with numbers. And if you are looking to do that or think that you want to submit that for your county, on the state horse website under state horse show, if you scroll down a ways, you can find the past 2 years results of state horse show on there. So it's kind of an easy way to find that data or most of the data that you would need to fill that out. So bonus trips are selected. There is a committee that gets together of both youth and adults who review all of the applications. And just so you know how they're awarded, we offer 20 bonus trips statewide each year. That is not broken out. It doesn't have to be broken out equally between quality and programming excellence. They review all of the applications based on a standard for each type, and they pick out the top 20 applications. So it could be 10 and 10. It could be all 20 in programming. It could be all 20 in quality. It all depends on the quality of the applications that come in. Your county can submit both or an application for both, but no, they can only receive one. But if you submit both, you have 2 chances to earn one of those trips versus if you only have one application in. But if you're strong in one area, that's maybe all you need to do. But so if your county is selected in one, you're automatically rejected, I guess, in the other one because you can only earn one bonus trip. So those are online. An informational email will go out when those are posted for counties to be able to submit those. It's an online application process. It's fairly easy to do. But it does need to be done by volunteers and youth. Staff does not do that. The only thing staff do is have to review it prior to it being submitted and sign off that it's accurate and correct. Questions on bonus trips? The next thing is the state PDC offers county grants that are available, and counties can request grants for up to $200 for educational opportunity development. So if you have something new you want to try or something different, if you can kind of justify, basically the application asks you to create a budget. So why do you need the money? Are you actually matching it, or is the way that you can match it? What is the opportunity you're doing? Why are you doing it? What are you going to gain from it? And submit those. Now, the application says grants are due March 1st, because we do ask that they get submitted a fair amount of time prior to your event for that approval. But if there's money left after March 1st, which there always has been, submit those grants at any time. And because they review and accept those until the money is gone that's budgeted for that through the State Horse PDC. So counties have the opportunity, again, to request grant funding to help, I guess, to help support new programming that they might want to try or do that will support either growth in their county or a really cool educational opportunity that they might have. Any
Is the
questions?
application, oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Is the application on the website then?
Yep, it's on the website.
Okay, just making sure. Thank you.
You're welcome. I believe it's under, there's a scholarships tab or scholarships, awards and opportunities. I believe it's under that tab. That's where I think it's located, but it's listed as grants.
Perfect. Thank you.
So next, state horse show changes. We have, we want to first recognize that we know that there's conflicts when kids go to state if they're in multiple opportunities. So if they're showing a horse in games or performance and they're participating in speech and demo, or they're participating in horse judging contest, or they're participating in hippology, we know that there's conflicts with riding and the non-riding classes. We also know that our schedule it gets long, right? We only have so much time in a day. Some days run later than others. So we are really, really, really taking a hard look at the state horse show schedule and are going to make some attempts this year to alleviate those conflicts as much as possible for those youth. We always want run reports, and I do want to say, no matter what, we always work with those conflicts. So if a youth is in the middle of doing one, we make that accommodation as long as the 4-H'er and their parent or whatever contacts the head of both. So if there's a conflict with them running a games class and they're in the middle of hippology, if someone lets the tunnel know up there that, hey, we might have a conflict, we work between the two groups to make sure that they don't miss their opportunity. But I know it gets tight, and sometimes, yep, they are running from one event, grabbing their horse and running again. So we are considering a bunch of changes to the scheduling that will, for a couple different reasons. So one, to make the experience a little less stressful for families, to alleviate those conflicts. We're also looking hard at how do we make the most use of the facilities that we have available at the state fairgrounds. So maybe moving some things around to better fit the needs and the opportunities, and then to try to shorten the days just a bit, right? So if we can make better use of facilities or change a few things around, we're hoping that maybe the days could be a little shorter for those
Should be
groups.
2 or 3 pair there.
So that's our goal for that. We're working on that. We're hoping to really address that. There's a group right now that's putting those potential changes together. We've pulled off all the records. We keep track on our scoring system at the State Horse Show. So a part of the tabulation process that scores each of the classes also tracks the time it takes for a class. So there's a button we click when the show when that class starts, a button that we click when that class ends. So we can kind of, over the past how many years, tell that a barrel class with 40 riders in takes this amount of time on average. So that's the reason we do that. So if you've ever done tabulation, you've had to do that. Now is the time that we utilize that so we can look at, can we move this here? Can we potentially move this here? Is there enough time to shift some of these things? So all of those things are being considered, as well as the schedule, as well as the facilities, as well as everything we're trying to do to just make some changes to make the state horse show a little bit of a better opportunity for all and better utilize our opportunities. So as
Renee,
soon as we know that, we can let people know that.
Renee,
Yep.
this is Randy. I would have one suggestion to everybody that's here, that for sure the schedule won't be the same next year as last year. So pass that information around. So what event might have ran at 7 a.m. last year probably won't run at 7 a.m. this year. So they better pay attention. So that doesn't cause any undue stress for people either. Share that with your friends and let them know that they should be watching the schedule, because there are going to be changes, trying to do, accommodate people the best we can and keep everybody safe and get their chance to ride and all that stuff.
Okay, thanks, Randy. Yes, so we will, once we get the potential or the schedule set, which we're hoping to have set close to February, if we don't have to relook at a few things after our February meeting. We're hoping to have that set, and we will start pushing that out there and pushing that out there and pushing that out there to counties. And every time that we can hit them and let them know that, that we'll be pushing that information out there to try and reach everybody. So we don't have people assume that, oh, schedule's been like this forever, I know I run at this time, when maybe that changed. So we will, once that is set in stone, we will start really pushing that information so that we can ensure that it gets out to everybody. I wish I had more information right now, but maybe, at the April regional meeting, hopefully that'll be all finalized then. And that might be one thing that we really focus on, is some of those changes that are happening. Drill team. Drill team. So we are in the process right now of the creation of a procedure book that has important information in it. So that procedure booklet has the tiebreakers in it. It has some of those things that are specific to drill team in it, that are maybe above and beyond, not necessarily always a rule, but sometimes it's just the way of how things work and how things are handled in the drill team competitions. So that book right now, I believe it's in the final edits, so it should be out soon for drill teams to have, and it'll be posted.
Renee, it's actually posted right now in the guidelines under drill team. The changes were finalized and it's out there right now.
Perfect. I know I reviewed it a little bit ago, so I knew it was close. I didn't know if it got up yet or not.
And I know we talked about rulebook changes, but there was rulebook changes submitted that were actually put into the procedure book to make sure that drill teams are aware to read through that entire procedure book, because there has been some changes and updates to it.
Yeah, so that's maybe a thing to note. Sometimes that people submit rule book changes to the State Horse PDC, and we don't really feel that they're a rule book change, that they should go into the procedural handbook instead of being a rule change. So that was why that the procedure book was created in the first place, was because some of those things we didn't feel weren't necessarily rules. They're more of the procedure of how events work and operate. And how drill team will be managed and operate. So that is why that procedure book was created for drill team. So it is not necessarily rules. However, it is information that will guide that entire process. So it is important for drill teams to read through that procedure book and kind of know what's in there. The committee is looking at, how might drill team be offered in the future, how the program, do we still want to do regionals, or do regionals need to change? So that's kind of an ongoing discussion and point that the drill team continually looks at. So that committee always looks at that. But I do think that they are taking a look at all of the pieces of drill team to see how maybe it changes, as well as now the State Horse Show is changing. So all of those things are kind of go hand in hand together in looking at drill team as it relates to State Horse Show and as it relates to its own program as a whole. And I think this is new. It's new. And I think this is an awesome, exciting opportunity. There's a drill teams camp that is going to be held June 7th through the 9th, 2023 at RJ Arena in Verndale. So watch for registration information closer to the date. This is for all levels of teams. So even if you're thinking that you might want to start a drill team, or you have kids who might be interested in drill team, this camp is for all of them, as well as the seasoned teams. So it will help them gain new skills. It will give people a really good idea of what drill team is, what the pieces of it is, to find out if you're good at it or not good at it, if you're interested in it, or if your horse really works well for that, all of those things. So I think it's an awesome opportunity that's new this year, is that drill team camp that will be offered. And a fun way for those kids to be able to gain new skills, recognize each other, and, you know, in some respects, get an additional time to practice and perform drill that sometimes they don't get at the county level. They may practice a lot, but they don't always get the performance, or they don't get the camaraderie with other teams except at regionals. So this is a new way that they can build friendships and relate and actually share information between teams and get ideas. So awesome opportunity that's been created for drill team by having this new opportunity for having a drill team camp.
Hey, Renee. Oh,
Yep.
sorry. I was just gonna say there was a question in the chat that was actually answered in the chat where the procedure book is at, but you might want to just say it out loud in case not everybody can see the chat.
It's in
The
the
radio-
guide. Yep, sure. It's under the drill team onto the website under drill team. It's, if you click on guidelines, click that plus, it's right in there. It's the first one. It says new.
So again, on the Minnesota 4-H, and I'll just be honest, you know, I can't do anything about it, but sometimes our website, the horse website, is not so easy to navigate. I'll just be that way. The easiest way to find it, at least for me, is if I go into Google search and I just search MN 4-H horse. And usually the University Horse website comes up as my first one to
Renee,
click on.
it's Nicole. Madison Floden is putting the websites in the chat. I know some people can't see it, but it is, whoever has chat, it is being put in there by Madison.
Excellent. Thank you, Madison.
Renee. Also,
Yep.
the drill team camp is for youth who have completed the 3rd grade and up. So the 3rd to 5th grade group can also join that event.
Yes. So like I said, it's for all levels, I think. You know, your younger ones, your older ones, your seasoned ones, your new ones. I think it's a great way for them to build skills and opportunities. So thanks for clarifying that age group.
Renee,
Yes.
there was also a question in the chat. I don't think this necessarily pertains to drill team, but it says, I know we talked about 2 kids riding 1 horse. Can one youth ride 2 horses? Like do pleasure with one and games with the other?
They can ride 2 different, yes. If your county allows it. There are a couple counties who don't allow youth to bring 2 horses, but if your county allows the youth to bring 2 horses, yes, they can ride 1 horse in games and a different horse in pleasure. And it may affect it. So every county has different regulations. Some of it's based on housing. There's some different reasons that they have that. So if you question your county, make sure that you ask that question first, but you can definitely ride a different horse. I do want to say that depending on how points are calculated, every county has a set way that points are calculated or how you earn those state trips. So having 2 horses in some respects, if there are a couple counties who have more of a high point opportunity when they do their points, so having 2 horses might split your points or split your opportunity to earn those trips, or it may not. So you want to look into that depending on your county. But most counties across the board have performance trips and games trips that are totally separate. There's only a few that have been approved to do more of the high point or straight points opportunity. So in that respect, you would have 2 horses. So you would be competing, I would assume, on your game horse for a games trip and your performance horse for a performance trip. If you should earn both trips, you would have to choose which one you take. You can't take them both to state, but you can compete at the county level to earn both trips. Other questions? These are great questions. Hearing none, I will keep moving. Ranch Pleasure, I just want to kind of give a rundown. I think, you know, we were a little late in getting ranch pleasure out there to counties. So kudos to the counties who took it and ran with it. And kudos to the kids who did their best and maybe didn't have a ton of experience or a ton of time to practice ranch, but said, you know what, I think I've got a ranch horse. I want to try it. I thought last year went well. There were 512 participants in ranch pleasure at the county level. There were 36 participants in the 10th grade and up class at state and 37 participants in the 6th through 9th grade at class at state. So I think this is a growing class. It's going to continue this year, and it will be the same as last year. Then we'll be reviewing it. So when I say that, what I mean is we only had 2 offerings at state level. So 10th grade and up and grades 6 through 9, 2 different classes. And if they continue to get larger, they'll end up being split classes, which is fine. We can manage that. But for the first 2 years, we committed to the 2 classes at state, and then we'll be reviewing it. If it continues to grow, my estimate will be that it will break out into the same type of age groups that the other classes are. So a 6th grade level, a 7th grade level, 8th grade level. But we wanted to ensure that it was growing enough to be able to justify having all of the age groups. And that's another thing we have to look at on the state horse show schedule, because that's that many more classes we have to fit in somewhere at the state show. So again, another reason why we're really looking hard at the state horse show schedule is we have a limited amount of time that we need to get everything done and in there. So if you ever wonder why we go nonstop from 7 a.m. to as soon as we can get it done and why there's no breaks, it's because we have a lot to get done in a short amount of time to give all the kids the opportunity, the glory, and the opportunity to shine at the state level to get it all done in that time. Been questions before of why we don't split the arena and run 2 games classes at once. A couple different reasons, like Champ Show does, a couple different reasons, because I'm guessing there'll be a couple people who ask that. First reason is, well, there's really 3 main reasons I would say. First reason is safety. It's not quite as safe when you're more confined for these youth and running. So for example, poles in a split half arena, it's a little more sketchy if you've got kids who are a little bit more out of control. That's one reason that we don't do it. Second reason is it takes a whole lot of volunteers to set up a split arena and tear down a split arena and set up a split arena and tear down a split arena. And we don't fill all of our volunteer spots for State Horse Show now. So that would take, and it would take time to set up and tear down, and we don't necessarily have extra time. But most importantly, I think, and why we have continued to say no to those opportunities. Yeah, it'd be nice to be done earlier at night, but you know what? Our philosophy and 4-H's philosophy is to highlight the youth and showcase our youth and give them the opportunity to shine. So we feel that it's their time to shine in that arena, to give them the spotlight. And it's harder to watch when 2 classes are going. It's more distracting. It's more distracting for the kids, the horses, and it's their time to shine. So we allow them the opportunity as best we can to have that moment in the spotlight. No matter how their ride goes, they had the opportunity to be in that spotlight of in the Coliseum or in the Compier for their ride by themselves, and allowing their skills to show.
Renee, hold on. There's a question. I don't know if I'll read it if that's okay. It says by Colleen. Oh, someone's maybe answering it. Have we looked at the rule about 1 horse for pleasure and another for ranch pleasure ridden by the same youth? Only 1 Western pleasure class can be ridden by 1 rider. I was just, them were the 2 things that were being said.
So currently, we don't allow youth to ride both in ranch and in Western pleasure with the same horse, because we really feel like you need to decide what type of horse. They're distinctly different classes, right? A ranch horse is a distinctly different moving, different type of horse than a performance pleasure horse. So right now they feel that if they allowed kids to ride them both with the same horse, that for one, we're not allowing kids to really figure out where they're best or where their horse performs best. We're just allowing kind of, I guess, a double dip, right? So I get to ride twice and hope I do good in both, or at least one, where we really think that kids need to be able to figure out what type of horse they have and what skill set they want to perform in, because they are both pleasure classes. it has always been discussed, and I'll be honest, it's kind of a hot and heavy discussion sometimes on our state level, but they feel that by allowing to ride in 2 pleasure classes, it's kind of double dipping because they are both a pleasure type class.
Yes, I understand that, but last year, there was a decision that you had to choose, even if you had 2 horses. My daughter has a ranch horse and a pleasure horse. And if she rode in ranch, she could not ride in pleasure, even on 2 different horses.
Right. And I know that was discussed and I know that was the decision made. Again, a little bit like double dipping in performance classes, but I'm not going to say that. I can make a note of that and we can bring that up for discussion on the state horse PDC level again. Because I know ranch will be brought up because we need to evaluate it and kind of determine where things need to be clarified and where things need to go. And I know that was I would say a long discussion on the state level in regards to a lot of those type of decisions. So I made a note of it to bring that back up at State Horse PDC for further discussion. So if you have reasons for supporting one way or another, if you want to email me those pieces, that is support that I can bring from you directly or from your group that would help support your cause in that discussion piece. So I welcome that from anybody and of pros or cons, right? What's best? Do we allow more than one? Do we not allow it? What are your feelings with that? If you send me those, I would be happy to send that out to the committee for them to look at and we can further that discussion.
Okay, thank you so much.
Yep, thank you. So yeah, I think we had, for being late getting it out there, 512 participants on the county level for ranch was awesome. I think that will I think the level of competition as well as potentially the number of riders will only get larger and stronger. Because like I said, a lot of kids didn't have a lot of time to prepare for it. They may even didn't really know for sure what it was, but knew they didn't have a Western pleasure type horse. So they entered in ranch. And as they get that figured out, they may continue to work on that, or they may say, you know what, I don't have a ranch horse. That's not where my horse's skills or my interest is even. So I think it will only continue to grow and get stronger and more competitive as we move forward with that ranch pleasure class. Discovery Horse. I just want to let you guys know and give you a heads up. Last year on the state level as staff, we offered a Discovery Horse program, which was a 5-week virtual Zoom session with take-home lessons. So we opened it up. It filled in 5 minutes with 30 youth, which is what we felt we could accept or take on Zoom. We're considering offering it again statewide. It's a super easy curriculum to teach. It's already developed for you. Everything is there. I would take anybody's feedback on whether it was geared really towards younger kids. So we had a lot of 3rd through 5th graders that joined that Discovery Horse. So it was the 5 lessons where I think the first one was like horse 101. So what are some breeds? What are they used for? What are horses? Some history things on horses. So general horse knowledge. The second one, or one of them, was on nutrition and feeding and what do horses need? How do you take care of them? What facilities do you need to house a horse? Those kind of things, set in basics. It was pretty basic information, but there were 5 different lessons. At the end of each of the nights, the evenings of the virtual, we tied it into, all right, how do you make what you learned tonight a 4-H project?
Recording in progress.
So in horse related or any of those type of things, or horseless horse, if they don't have a horse, how could they make what we talked about in nutrition as an example? How do you make that a 4-H project? And we gave them ideas. We gave them take-home lessons to do. We gave them take-home ideas to create. We did a photo circle where they could share back what they did. And my favorite, the first one I got back on the photo circle, was after we talked about the first lesson about horses and different breeds and markings on horses and those kind of things. We gave them out a draw or create your dream horse back, and we had a bunch of those come back with kids who drew their perfect dream horse, what they were meant for. Some of them were race horses, some of them were Western pleasure horses, some of them were games horses, barrel racing horses. And they drew their horse, and we had some very beautiful drawn Appaloosas. We had all kinds of horses come back, and kids with a lot of excitement in, this is my dream horse and this is what I want to tell you about it. So that was the first one. It was really cool to see that reaction. I am interested in, if we have people out there or volunteers and or youth, either offering it statewide again, or we could offer this out because it's developed to counties to offer for theirs. So feedback on that, I am willing to take in, whether the PDC wants to offer it out again statewide and have some of our, we did have youth PDC members teach it or co-teach it with adults last year. So it's easy, simple, and a great opportunity to get more kids involved and help them connect horse to 4-H projects for the younger ones. So if you've got feedback on that, I'm willing to take that, send me an email, share it with me, whatever you want to do.
There's a question in the chat. It says, is the Discovery horse different than the 4-H Horseless Horse Roundup starting January 24th?
They are different. They are very different. So the Horseless Horse Roundup is, we are looking at, it's a different, they're totally different. Same philosophy, kind of, same idea, but the Discovery horse was geared more towards younger people, and the Horse Roundup is geared more towards middle school aged people, for kids who don't have horses at all. And how they tie that into horseless horse projects, how they can take that information and move forward. And I'll let you know that we have, I believe, in the Horse Roundup, we already have 125 people signed up for that. So I tell you what, with the last offering that filled up in 5 minutes, and this one it's large and probably going to have to shut down again because it's getting so large or getting so many, we may need to offer it again. There is a need out there for kids, or there is an interest in a horse out there. So trying to get the hook out there and grab these kids into our program. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about Horseless Horse and some other opportunities that are coming in there. Really trying to find new ways to grow our program, to get more kids involved at different levels, different ways. Because they're all kids. There are so many kids out there who are interested in horses and maybe didn't know that they could participate in 4-H because they didn't have a horse. So any feedback on any of those would be awesome.
There's another question. Are the lessons adaptable for in-person meetings?
Yes. Yep. They're PowerPoints, but they certainly can. And the handouts, are paper versions. A lot of them can take those things and create. Yes, they're easily adaptable to in-person meetings. And that's what the Discovery, not the Discovery horse, the Winter Roundup horse is going to have adaptable lessons as well to be able to take, as well as the Horseless Horse process that I'll be talking about in a minute, that we're in the process of creating for counties to really enhance their Horseless Horse programs in their county level, to be able to create new opportunities at the state level. I'll talk about that and more, and that will also have more hands-on opportunities involved with it that's coming out.
There's another question. Is there a written format for the Discovery horse to use at club level? Where do we find it?
That actually, the Discovery horse doesn't have necessarily the written for counties. The Winter Roundup will have that coming out. So that's coming out. So that Winter Roundup Horseless Horse opportunity will have written opportunities for club leaders to do, for counties to do, or multi-counties to do. So this curriculum that's coming out will have a lot of different opportunities for counties to grab and take and use, and more of the hands-on opportunities. These are great questions. So now I can talk a little bit about the Horseless Horse. And this is a little bit starting as the Winter Roundup, but it's going to be developing out. So we are working right now on developing ways to expand the Horseless Horse offerings. And have begun to create county options for Horseless Horse programming in counties. So this is not set in stone yet, and we're just trying to gather this data. However, we just had an all-staff opportunity where we're starting to put this information out to staff on what we are going to be providing to them to be able to support an enhanced Horseless Horse program at their county level. So we are currently developing a guide that will go out to counties, and a possibility of new offerings that can be offered at the county level. And then finally, this is not finalized at all, but new ways to participate at the state, at the county and state level in horseless horse. So what is currently in the process of being created are lesson plans. So counties will have the opportunity and staff will have the opportunity to kind of be trained or be given, I would say, project kits kind of. And that's one opportunity. So if your county is interested in thinking about, hey, how can we enhance, or maybe we want to create a horseless horse program, there'll be like a guide that's given out saying, okay, here's one way we can do it. We can offer these just project lesson books, right? So the hands-on learning opportunities where we can gather kids together and do hands-on learning without a horse. Another opportunity will be that there's a process laid out for counties to look at and say, you know what? Could we offer horseless horse opportunities and use mentor kids horse similar to a challenge rider opportunity where a challenge rider might ride another 4-H'er's horse, but maybe it's not riding. Maybe it's that we have horseless horse opportunities where a couple of our current kids come in and be mentors to those horseless horse kids, where they learn about safety, they learn about handling horses, they learn about grooming and care of those horses, and potentially they might have the opportunity to do a showmanship class with a shared horse as part of a horseless horse opportunity. And finally, we're tossing around the idea of potentially creating, similar to the horse training book, where they go through a process and a series of steps to train an untrained horse, right, up through the level of being able to ride it. Similar idea, but creating a step-by-step process for horseless horse, where they might use a mentor horse, or counties can connect with a rescue place if they have one, or a different ways that they connect these kids where they work through a workbook type opportunity or a step-by-step. So they go through step 1 and here's all the things they need to check off and learn before they can move on to step 2. Some of those may or may not include working with someone's live horse. And then potentially even finding ways that, like the training program, where they would compete at the county level in this, or would compete in their own showmanship type class with a shared horse, and possibly even move on to a state level type of competition that would involve a lot of different opportunities to really expand horseless horse into something new. Information, when we did a survey out there is a ton of interest in horseless horse and expanding those opportunities, because we all know that there are so many young kids out there who love horses and want to be more involved or want to learn more. So finding ways that counties can utilize volunteers and or utilize staff to create new options in the horseless horse, but we're really trying to help create that for them so that we can hand that over and say, here's volunteers, here's what your role is, here's lessons you can teach, and here's how we can do that. So this is totally a work in process and progress, but we are really looking to expand the horseless horse programming. Questions or feedback?
Yes, I got a question. I've seen mules at different events. Personally, I'm impressed. So we say horseless horse, but can they use mules and donkeys?
Yes. Yep. We've had people ride at State Horse Show mules before in our performance classes
You've had
that have
very good
qualified.
And
Yep. So when we talk about that, when we talk about horse in our program, we're talking about ponies, horses, mules, kind of that whole gamut of things. So yeah, I mean, that's another opportunity of how to enhance that horseless horse program. If that's what the opportunity is, that's another way to learn about horses, mules, ponies, all of those type of things.
a lot of people ask if Minnesota could develop a little bit more information on a mule and a donkey, because they aren't quite the same as a horse.
Yep.
You know, I mean, there was a girl, oh God, this is years ago, 18 years ago. She had the most beautiful mule you'll ever see, and it did very well. And people couldn't believe how well that mule did because they never seen it or heard about it. And they were saying we should get a mule, you know.
Yep, yep. So I just wanted to give you, this is like the first heads up that some of this information is coming. Know that it's still being created and developed. But it's on, I'll say the fast track, right? To get this out there and get it up and running. We'd like to have something out there to counties by spring so that counties who want to adapt this or start some kind of horses horse program or enhance their horses horse program could have the information that they need to really start it yet this spring. So it is on the fast track. You'll hear more information. We had an all staff meeting on Thursday to roll this out to staff people. They were excited about it, thought that there were opportunities in their counties. So, we are in, like I said, the fast track in this development. So keep your ears open for more information as it becomes available. Alumni committee. I just wanted to, we began to work to create an alumni horse contact group. Our state horse show has an alumni committee that works they worked really hard to provide opportunities to really, showcase last year when we had our 50th state horse show anniversary. They also worked to try to gather potential volunteers to keep alumni involved in our program. So a lot of different things that is on their radar and their list. They will communicate with this group to keep those alumni engaged in the horse program. So what we really are trying to do is create a contact group list of alumni that we can use for multiple reasons, but also to keep them involved and keep them communicated so they know what's going on in the horse program. A lot of the alumni who have left our program, who were Horse Project members, there's a special place or a special passion that they had about horse, and they really would like to stay up to date. So that's part of the development process with this. We'll be collecting information to help us to gain volunteers. So those alumni can be used in our counties and on the state level, potentially as volunteers to come back and help with specific things if they were interested in some things, or they really had a passion for areas. Sometimes they are the best people to draw on to help us in our programs now. That information will be collected to use in support campaigns. So it might be that they get information, say, you know what? Would you like to sponsor a class at the State Horse Show? Would you like to sponsor an award and those kind of things? This information is being created and will be housed at the U of M in their database system. It is not shared. It's not sold. It's not anything. It's private for our use only. And then we're also looking to create a type of a newsletter that will go out to alumni, probably quarterly. It might be a little less than that as we get started and roll out, just to keep them informed in what's happening, because the best way for us to continue to gain support is to keep them informed. So know that that's coming. There'll be opportunities for people, if you know people who are alumni that we might not be able to reach in our normal ways, so they might not have Facebook or they might not see any posts that we have. Once that is out there, there'll be a link for them to add their information into to be a part of that alumni communication group. Please share that out because we know word of mouth is the best way that we can grab or find our alumni that are out there, because if they're not around here, they're not still connected, we don't always know how to find them. We've also been talking with the U of M. We've been working with Ryan Thibodeau, who is a specialist in creating those listservs and databases for us. So he'll be helping to create that for us. And he has shared, one of the things that we hadn't really thought about, he shared with the alumni committee that we have on our state level. When those kids, we have contact information for our kids when they graduate out because we have them in 4-H online. But oftentimes when they graduate out and they go to college, their email changes and we lose them. So trying to brainstorm ways that we can keep that connect with our outgoing graduating 4-Hers, if they so choose to want to be connected, right? We wouldn't force them to, but if they want to maintain or stay connected to the horse program and receive updates, how do we do that? How do we make that connect? Because when they graduate out and their 4-H enrollment goes to archived, right? We have no way to collect their new data, and there's that gap from when they leave our group to when they go to college that we don't always get that updated information. So we're working now to think through that and how do we capture that. So as this rolls out and you'll see information posted about, hey, do you want to be a part of our alumni group and stay connected and stay knowledgeable about what's happening in Minnesota 4-H Horse, share that with those alumni or people that you know that might be interested, and certainly allow them the opportunity to enter their information and data in there. They can opt out at any time, so you won't, if you say, I don't want this, I'm not into it, after a while, they can just, there's a way to unsubscribe and they're out and they don't get it anymore. So it's not a lifetime, or you're not stuck with 1,000 emails coming into your box. But we do feel that that's a great way to keep them connected as resources to us as we move forward in the horse program. Questions? Winter Roundup, I just want to highlight that because the deadline is coming up. I think it's on the 16th is the final deadline for Winter Roundup. I don't even know for sure, but I believe it's registration's open through the 16th. That's coming up. It's an exciting 3-day, 2-night conference for adults and youth to really focus on leadership in the horse project and horse project knowledge and information about what opportunities are out there. It's for youth in 6th grade and older who are interested in horses. Parents and adult 4-H volunteers are also welcome. It includes speakers, educational workshops, hands-on activities. There are a number of topics, but just a touch on them. We're talking about ranch pleasure, equine entrepreneurship, horse project area activities. So we focus on horse judging, hippology, project bowl, training program, drill team, speech and demo. So kids can learn about what those are. We also talk about youth leadership and Dan Patch and how to let youth lead and building leadership skills for kids. There's great speakers. Registration is open now, I think through January 16th. The event is scheduled for February 3rd. I think it's 3rd, right? This one sec.
Yes, February 3rd through 5th.
3rd through the 5th. Thank you. So we are still looking. We have openings still for more. It is a super fun weekend where kids can build friendships. They can network with other horse kids. They learn a lot, but it's really fun opportunity. I hear a lot from kids who have attended that this is one of their favorite opportunities and activities to attend in 4-H horse. So register, you can go into 4-H online. And if you are in 6th grade or up, if you scroll down to the bottom of 4-H online, it should have an opportunity for you to click there to register for that event. And it is being held at the Eagles Bluff Conservation Center in Lanesboro this year. And we have moved it around the state. This year it's in the southeast, but anyone can attend. So I encourage you, if you feel like it's a longer drive and you can't get there till later on Friday night is a lot of icebreakers and get to know it. So you can come at any time. I know I have kids who have basketball who won't be there till later because they have basketball practice. They are still welcome. They won't miss any of the workshop stuff by coming in as they can on Friday evening. So that opportunity is there and it's a super fun event. So please register if you're interested in that or pass it on to others who are interested in registering for that. Next regional meeting is scheduled for April 1st in 2023. Normally it's the second Saturday, but the second Sunday is Easter this year. So we bumped it forward. And then the weekend after that is Project Bowl. So the next regional meeting will be held April 1st, 2023. So just have that on your calendars and you'll get an email notification about that as we get closer to that date. Any other questions?
Renee?
Yes.
This is Meg. Just an additional event coming up is boot camp, and that information will be out shortly.
Perfect. Do we have dates, Meg, that you could share?
June 13th through the 15th at Burndale.
June 13th through the 15th. And boot camp, for those of you who don't know it, is a camp that is, I would say, probably geared towards a little bit more experienced youth in those projects, but it's really in-depth, great training with wonderful instructors and speakers. You bring your horse to it, you get hands-on knowledge, you get hands-on practice, you get hands-on work and opportunity to practice those skills, to learn from professionals in those areas and really hone your skills in on performance and games classes. So wonderful opportunity. Don't miss out on that if you have the opportunity to go.
We are adding Ranch Pleasure this year.
Perfect. So another thing, and that's a great thing, since I said there's not a ton of, a lot of kids don't feel that they have that knowledge. So what a great way to get instruction on something that's fairly new to us. So thanks for sharing that, Meg.
I just wanted to add that I went last year and it was super helpful, super great. I did the games and my friend did the performance, and when I was not in my games classes, I would watch the performance classes to pick up on some of that stuff. And all the instructors were super great, and it was super helpful for the coming fair year.
Perfect.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for sharing that. Other questions?
It's a question in the chat about Clover Bud horses. History of why they are not allowed to handle a horse no matter their experience level. We lose families because of this rule, which I can attest to that. Yes, our county has gone through some of that a little bit.
I can give you a little bit of history about Clover Buds. So Clover Buds, couple different reasons why Clover Buds is the way it is in 4-H. First reason is Clover Buds was designed in 4-H to be an exploratory opportunity, right? So not a full-blown experience, but an exploratory where kids had the opportunity to try different projects. So that's some of the reason why it's limited to a games class, a pleasure class, and a showmanship class, so they can experience each of the types of disciplines. For horse, we get pushback sometimes from other species because they're only allowed to show in one class, where horse gets 3 classes to show in. And they don't think that's fair. They think horse should only have 1 class. So we push to say, no, if you really truly have it as an experiential learning opportunity, they should be able to try and experience each of the different disciplines to decide what their interest is in. So that's one reason of why Clover Buds was developed that way. The second one is that in 4-H and in research shows that kids at those age don't handle competition as well. So that's why our Clover Buds are non-competitive. It's participation only, because they don't feel that they grasp and can really connect with what participation or what competition really means. And it's not in the best interest at that age group to push competition. Secondly, we have to have a standard in place. We can't say, it's too hard for us, I would say, to say, well, this Clover Bud is more experienced, so they're allowed to do this. This Clover Bud is less experienced, so they're not allowed to do this. Who makes those judgments? Who makes those calls? So from our perspective, we have to maintain that it's experiential, and Clover Buds is, we don't know, I guess, the level of a Clover Bud. So I might have a Clover Bud. Yep, my kids rode from age 3 on. So yep, my kids themselves as Clover Buds were more experienced. But the next kid down who has never been on a horse, who says, oh, grandpa got me a horse, they don't have that experience as a Clover Bud. So how do we, it's too hard to manage those. So we have to take into consideration that Clover Buds, from our perspective, all of those kids might be new. So we have to handle them kind of all the same, because who makes the judgment call of who has experience and who doesn't? And then for liability reasons, if someone says, yep, you're good enough to ride, and there's an injury that happens, who's liable for making that decision? So there's a lot of legal ease, I would say, that comes into that Clover Bud decision as well. I understand the concern. I truly do. My kids rode for a long time and they had a hard time being Clover Buds because they had a different level of experience than those Clover Buds who come in who are new. So totally understand it. There's not really anything that I can change or that we can change about that because of the philosophy of Clover Buds. Totally understand. But I do understand where that frustration comes in.
Renee, there's a question in the chat. It says, for the winter roundup, are you supposed to sign up for all the days or just one? And do you need to stay overnight?
We encourage, you can sign up. We encourage the participation in the whole event, but we also know that sometimes that's not possible. So if that's not possible, we would love for you to at least experience a day of it or 2 days of it. You don't necessarily have to stay overnight. However, the price is probably not going to change because we're locked into, if you're participating, we're locked into that price per participant. So that wouldn't change necessarily. But yeah, there are some opportunities because we would love for kids to have the opportunity to attend. So if you can't or don't feel that you can for some reason attend the whole thing, reach out to me and we can talk about that a little more. But it is super fun to stay. It is a great opportunity. If you have younger kids who aren't sure if they want to be there by themselves, a parent can come with and sign up and register and participate as well. We don't house the adults with the youth, but they are in the same building. So, you're close if there's an issue. But yeah, give me a call or talk about that if there's a reason that you couldn't participate in the whole thing. But those of you, Leah, and all of you who have participated, Allison, if you're on, you can attest to the opportunity and the experience as a whole. It means something to be there the whole time.
Okay, there's a few more questions.
Okay.
How have other counties engaged the Clover Bud age group? I'm guessing it means because you do have the kids that have been riding their entire life and now they have to be led by an adult. I have 3 from our county. I guess for us, we just had to explain it was the rules and discussed it with the parents. And I had 2 parents that completely understood the rules and explained it to their children. I had 1 parent slightly disagree. And unfortunately for me as a project leader, there was no way around it. And I had to explain that to them. I understand your position, but what I meant, this falls on our county if we don't follow the rules. I'm not sure if that's answering your question. So Renee, if you have any thoughts, but I'm just reading the questions out of the chat.
I think that's good. And I think maybe, so I have 2 thoughts on this, and I think this is for a bigger discussion, or maybe it's a great topic that could come up in your regional meetings when we break out here, and each region could put that as a discussion point. And as you take notes, we could submit that and I can send that back out like, hey, here's the thoughts that came from each region, right? Or how counties handle that. So we could gather that information. I also think that we do what's called innovation stations at Winter Roundup. So as part of that leadership that I was talking about with the youth, we create these real life scenarios, or we don't create them, we develop real life scenarios where the kids talk about them, they think through them and what are solutions or what are options or what are this. That I see that right there as popping up as a wonderful innovation station topic for those kids and adults to discuss and to come up with ideas and philosophies and come up with opportunities or ideas to how do we handle both of those situations, or how do we engage both levels of kids in Clover Buds, and maybe they can come up with some really creative ideas that counties could take and run. So thanks for that. But I'm going to say, I think our best bet right now is to roll that over to our regional meetings as a discussion point, and we can gather information from those regional meetings where counties are discussing more county by county. And then I will gather data that we gather from the innovation stations. I made a note that I will put that as one of those topics, and gather that information, and I can get that out to groups as well and to counties.
One thing too, I think, is someone was asking about what the 4-H rule is. And I think when you think about 4-H across the board, all livestock, that, you can't have little children leading their big cows and things like that. And so I guess as a parent of small children who we've had to go through the leading process for many years, many times, and how, yes, our kids have been capable, but we just recognize and respect that rule and know that because it's 4-H and across the board, kids can't necessarily do that. And we're just grateful for the opportunity that they can participate even in their little ways. So,
and that's a great way, when Clover Buds is Clover Buds across all of our levels. So if you have Clover Buds and we don't necessarily encourage them to be leading a 1,200 pound steer either, because what if it decides to be unruly? Well, not every horse depending on the situation is 100% bomb proof either. And we have that scenario where you could have an 1,100-pound horse decide that it spooks, and we could have a wreck that causes permanent injury or damage to not only the 4-H'er with that horse, but the ones surrounding him too. So, we take in that, and I know it doesn't make it any easier. And I know that our families who their kids have a lot more knowledge than others, but yep, taking it under that we don't know the level of every youth out there, that's kind of a great reminder. Other questions?
Is the April meeting on Zoom? That was one of them in the chat.
The April meeting will be on Zoom again, or virtual. Hearing no more questions, we'll keep moving.